Back in October of 2015, I ordered my first Volvo EX90, which I took delivery of in February of 2016. And that delivery video was the very first video here on the channel. And that video didn't only kickstart this channel, but also a whole series on that, my first XC90. And then 2 years later, in October of 2017, I ordered my second XC90, which I took delivery of in February of 2018. 2.5 years after that, in September of 2020, I took delivery of my first electric car here on the channel, the pre-facelifted Audi Q8 e-tron. And that Audi marked the shift to pure electric vehicles here on the channel, because since the fall of 2020, I've basically only tested electric cars with an exception of a few hybrids here and there. But I've always said that once Volvo releases an XC90 that's fully electric, I'll order one. And in November of 2022, Volvo released the fully electric EX90, which is basically an electric XC90. And I went out and ordered that car the day after the launch. But about a year ago, I canceled my order. So in this video, I want to talk about if that cancellation was a mistake, and now, after I have driven the EX90 several times, should I go out and order one? So there are many reasons for why I canceled my order. First off, at the time of cancellation, the car was already 3 or 4 months delayed, and it didn't look like I was going to take delivery of my car for another 2 or 3 months. Well, according to my sales reps. So my car was already like 6 to 8 months delayed, and I'd already been waiting for the car for almost 2 years. So all of the excitement of ordering a new car had basically died down. But in reality, I was very skeptical to that, initial 2 to 3 months extended wait from the point in time I canceled my order, because I knew in reality, the car would be much more delayed. And I actually visited my local Volvo dealer like a few weeks ago, and according to them, I would probably have been taking delivery of my car about a month ago. So we're talking about 8 to 10 months from the point I canceled my car. So the car was already like a year to a year and a half delayed. That was the first reason. The second reason is because of that delay, the car price had also gone up quite a bit. And with the new taxation system in Norway, the car was about 20% more expensive than when I initially ordered one. And that is quite a big jump. And also, I was planning on financing the car through Care by Volvo, which doesn't exist anymore. But if it had, well, the price would have gotten a lot higher. And if I went out and, financed it with a loan, the car price would also have gone up. And that, in combination with an unstable world economy and used electric car prices plummeting, it just made for a very uncertain situation. And I really didn't want to go out and commit to a car without having test driven it. Because remember, a year ago, or if it was like in July or August, I hadn't driven the car yet. Volvo were going to have, a press drive in California in August, which I really tried to get invited to, but they had no room for me, so I had no choice but to cancel my order. And that, along with the Polestar 3 being built on the same platform, having a lot of delays and software issues, and also the EX30 coming out with software issues, I really didn't have a lot of confidence in the EX90 being a finished product or even a working product at launch, which it wasn't. Test drives from the first cars came, to the shores of Norway and to North America have taken like 4 to 6 to 8 months. And at this point in time, there are still issues with the EX90. And also, I was a bit disappointed with the interior quality, the interior styling, with everything, being buried in menus in the touchscreen, a lot of the functions, and also leather not even being an option. And as this car got more and more delayed and came to market later and later, the appeal of new cars coming out with 800-volt architectures and much faster charging couldn't be ignored. And that, in combination with me also having a really awesome daily, a Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo, which I really love, and every time I go abroad or to a launch and I come back here to my house and I hop into my Porsche, I'm like, this is the best car ever. So I really didn't have a lot of reasons to go through with my order before actually test driving the EX90. But now I have. So I want to talk about that and what I think about the car and if I should go out and order one. So now, since my cancellation about a year ago, I have driven the EX90 on multiple occasions. I've also driven the Polestar 3, which was also a car I thought maybe I would like more. And I really like the Polestar 3, but I think the EX90 is just better for me. I really love the exterior styling. I love the interior, like the space, the room. The Bowers & Wilkins sound system sounds even better in the EX90 because of a bigger cabin than it does in the Polestar 3. And I think the EX90 on air suspension is just a more luxurious experience. I think it is an awesome driving, awesome looking car. It's just really, really good to drive, and I think it directly competes with the new electric Range Rover and also the Mercedes EQS SUV more than it does with the Kia EV9. It is that good. So I've driven it in northern Sweden earlier this year, from Luleå in northern Sweden to the hotel where we stayed, about 2 hours, and then back. So I drove it over 2 days, kind of a long trip. And then I had a press car on loan for a week in Spain. So I drove it like 2,500, 3,000 kilometers in Spain, and also drove it on a long trip from Madrid to Lisbon and back. I'll link that video down below. And since then, I've had a press car on loan here in Norway. I've done my long trip test, my range test. I've driven it here on the familiar roads here in Oslo, in the suburbs, and in southern Norway. And it is just awesome. It is a beautiful car to pilot, and I think it just feels very special and very luxurious. But there are a few things. Since my first test drive and my last test drive, Volvo have announced that this car is going to get an update for an 800-volt architecture in a future model year, like we've seen with the newly launched Volvo EX90, which gets 350 kilowatts of peak charging speed and 10 to 80% charging in like 20 minutes. And we can expect at least those numbers from the new EX90. And also, leather is going to be an option for model year 2026. And then it's going to get the new NVIDIA or an X GPU for more processing power, for lighter functionality, and also the infotainment system. But this last update is going to be retrofitted to earlier than model year 26 cars. So that's not an argument for waiting. The real argument is the leather option and also that fast charging. Because I talked to my local Volvo dealer, the one where I canceled my order, and they said I can actually get into an EX90 relatively fast. They have cars in stock. So that means the demand for the new car hasn't been that much, which may affect used car prices for the current model. And then when we see the new model with the updates, 800-volt architecture and leather option, those cars may not be much more expensive. Leather is going to be an option, but also they may hold their used car price value a lot more. So I think it is worth waiting for that update, which my Volvo dealer has confirmed will be available for the model year 26, which will be open for orders in the fall of this year. So my local Volvo dealer has confirmed that leather as an option and also 800-volt charging will be available for the model year 26. So I think I'm gonna wait until the fall, maybe until October again, and order an EX90, and hopefully as a 10-year anniversary here on the channel, take delivery of that 10 years after my first EX90. So what do you guys think? Are there other cars I should consider? I really love my Porsche Taycan, but I also want something new and fresh. I don't really need a big luxurious SUV, but I really love the way the EX90 looks and drives, and in my opinion, the only thing that car is missing is the leather option to make it even more luxurious and also faster charging. So We'll wait and see until the orders book open, what the price hike will be, if much at all, and see if I'm finally gonna get myself into the EX90. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below, and for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later. Goodbye.